I mean, excited for sure. Glad to be back around our guys. Summer is always good for them to kind of have some time for them to work, for them to gel a little bit without us around for that last couple weeks. But this is family too, so you start to miss them. Love spending time with our families, but it's good to be back around the guys. You know, been working since January for a goal, and so to get it closer to it day by day, week by week, is very exciting to be back with them.
Talk about Marcellus Barnes coming back after a really good ending to the season, I feel like. What have you seen from him so far?
I think he's just kind of found his groove here. Coming in, last spring, coming off an injury, just kind of took some time for him to get back through rehab, get back to the way that he plays. He's an ultra competitive person, ultra competitive player, and so to be cleared physically, once he got through those first couple weeks of the season, he started to kind of trend back to what we saw on film coming from Syracuse, and then I was able to put good film on tape with us, play at a high level, and then kind of took that into the offseason and emerged as a leader, not just a vocal or rah-rah guy, but just this is who I am, this is how I do my job, and I'm going to do it at an elite level. And so guys kind of see that, gravitate to it, and they want to do the same things. So I've been very pleased with his maturation as well as his development.
What is Ahmad being back out there, at least right now, mean for the whole secondary?
It's pretty cool. As a coach, you get news like that there's a possibility that everything NCAA can happen. And so for me, I'm the most stressed guy in the situation because I'm like, all right, how do you make sure that the room that we've started to build now gels with a piece that we know can play at a phenomenal level, can lead at a phenomenal level. We are all creatures of habit. We all human. So ego can play part and can get in the way. And so, just sitting down with our group and saying, hey, Ahmad is going to be in a position where he can possibly come back and play another year. I want you guys to know that now so that we don't know it later on, so that if it does happen, we've already talked through it, we've talked about it, and if it doesn't happen, we still got to move on accordingly. Sat down with Ahmad and did the same thing. For him, it's a blessing, potentially, for you to get back something that you thought not was taken from you, but could put you in a position where you may not be able to do it again, and God give you another opportunity. Lord willing, he's in a position to capitalize on that. But I love him like a son and family, so him being around, makes us feel good, makes us, work a little harder, and then it pushes the room too. Guys are like, okay, I know what he did before, the guys that have been here and the guys that are coming in. I saw what he did from afar, so I know I got to work. And now everybody's just, competing at a high level, working at a high level. But I've been very pleased with how we've been able to manage it to this point as far as taking our egos out of it and gelling right now.
Knowing that you might not have him, or you might not have him for the first couple games, a lot up in the air at this point, how do you also kind of make sure that the room that you were building without him maybe doesn't lean on his experience and his skill too much and knows that he could not be a part of it?
That's a great question. The big thing for us is just making sure that we also understand he had an injury, a very serious injury, and we have to be very smart about what the doctors tell us to do as far as his progression, because him, he's going to compete. And he wants to compete, and he's chomping at the bit. We love to see him out there competing. But again, I just said, if my son was out there, I would want somebody to make sure that they're attending to him the right way and making sure that we're not thinking about wins and losses and the season as opposed to his health. And so that was a part of the conversation that he and I had. Coach Lashley had the same conversation. Coach Crum had the same conversation with him, and we just wanted him to know it's going to be a process. So we got to make sure that he checks all the benchmarks physically first. And so our guys in the room understand that this is not a for sure deal. So we got to move on with being able to play it both ways, right? Yes, he's going to get reps at times. Nobody think that we're crazy by any means, but there's going to be times that he's going to be with the threes. There's going to be times where he doesn't rep at all at practice, right? Again, according to his return to play protocol, but then also us just making sure that if things don't go the way that we want, and he's not granted that year, that our guys in the room have not taken a step back in their preparation as well.
Lost another big piece there, too, in Isaiah Wakobe. Does Tyron Polley have the ability to make that, seamless transition or a pretty good transition to him as a starter there?
I think right now he's going to have to show us that he can't. because he showed flashes that he can, right? He showed that last year as a true freshman when he did have opportunities to play. A lot of people talk about the interceptions and the splash plays that he made, but we also know as coaches that we saw him starting to develop and mature on the special team side of the ball. And to me, a lot of times when you see guys doing that from a special team standpoint, it means that the game is starting to slow down for them. And they usually transition to that to defense. So he did that last year, has come into the fold, coming off of the hand injury, progressing as he should in that regard, but now being a vocal leader. That's who he is. That's how he's wired. His understanding of our defense is evident in the way that he plays, in the way that you see him line up, in the way that we grade the film afterwards. He's a very low minus guy, you know what I mean? Very high grade outs from practice, from scrimmages. And so a lot of the things that you can see from an early standpoint, he's showing that he's taking all the steps to do that. Now he's going to have to show us, under the lights, which again, he's shown flashes of doing that before. So we hope that we can just continue to move him forward, to push him forward so that becomes who he is all the time.
What's new on your plate this year as co-defensive coordinator, and how are you and Maurice kind of sharing some duties there?
Stress. No, I'm just messing. No, the big thing is being with Scott Simons and being able to do this with Mo Crum. We've always been in a situation, even with Coach Tibbs, with Coach Dunham, guys on our staff, like where input was collective on our defense. So you really coordinated your position, not the overall defense, so to speak. And so now stepping into the fold with Coach Crum, it's been making sure that you continue to do what you do, but do it at a higher level, and then also broaden your view. Okay, I can't just focus on what we're doing on the back end. What are we doing up front to make sure that we're sound in that way? Leaning on Coach Tibbs to say, hey, this is what we feel we can do. Leaning on Coach Dunham, this is how we can get after the passer, how we set the edge in the defense. And then Coach Crum and I sitting down and saying, all right, let's collectively pull these things together and talk about the ideas and things that we think that can help take our defense from where we've been and continue to ascend in that way. And so I think just broadening the view, broaden the responsibility, not being afraid to say, hey, we need to step in and fill a gap at any point in time because as a leader, that's your responsibility. And so I think that's probably been the biggest thing that you see immediately. Now when we get to game time, we'll see a little bit more, right? It's just a little bit different animal in how he and I mesh and continue to, like I said, allow us to be in a position to grow our defense.
At nickel, brought in Jarvis. Laundrick is back at full strength now. How good can that position? He seems like they've got some juice.
Man, it's awesome to see. We got great depth going right now as far as guys that we feel confident with, but those two right now are competing with each other at extremely high level. I think in the spring at times they might have competed a little bit against each other, and I think it was like, well, where do I fit in, right? Jarvis is coming in, high-level player, and made a lot of explosive plays, like I'm coming in to take a spot. 15, coming in and being back in year two. Year one didn't go the way I wanted to. Had an injury that kept me out 7 weeks. And so now I'm coming back, and I'm coming back to compete, and I'm coming back to take a spot. And I'm sitting down with both of them and saying right now, push each other, compete with each other, because we're going to need you both. We don't want to be done playing at the end of November. We're going to be playing into December and January. And you can't play in December and January with one guy at one spot. So you need to understand what that looks like. You need to understand that it's always going to be we before me. And if you move forward in that way, it's going to bring out the best in both. The best will play, but then we're going to also have another best that's going to be right behind. So that's a great feeling as a coach to be in that position. It's like kind of being a pitcher, I got a fastball, but if I can throw anything else, I can keep people off balance. And I think that's what they'll do. They'll complement each other.
What does having Jonathan McGill on the coaching staff bring, and how does he kind of connect with players not too far away from his age?
So he's done a great job of being able to balance that. It's hard when you're a younger coach to coach guys that you played with. He and Jimmy played with each other, for an extended period of time at Stanford, known each other for that long. The other guys in the room, outside of some of our first, second-year guys, played with him when he was here. And just being able to balance, my coaching hat and then my hat when we're off the field. And one thing I had to tell him, because I started out as a young coach, is that you just have to understand you have to separate yourself from guys at times, just as far as the professional portion of things. That doesn't mean you love them any less. That doesn't mean you still aren't good friends. But you do have to make sure that they understand that when we step across the white lines, Coach McGill is going to coach you like Coach McGill. You know what I mean? It's not Jonathan talking to you like your teammate. And he's done an awesome job at that. You guys have seen him. You've reported on him for an extended period of time. He's got a chance to be a very good coach. He's got a chance to be a star in our profession. He's learning, and Coach Crum and I and the coaches on our staff around him continue to challenge him, continue to try to make it not so much hard, but help him to understand that road is a path. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But day in, day out, you can see him add value in a lot of different ways. Off the field, on the field, in the middle of the drill. There's times where I say, hey, I'm going to step back here, and I want you to take the drill. You know what I mean? I want you to be in a position where when we get to September the 7th, then you got to help us make decisions and help us make corrections on the sideline that you're ready to do so. And he's jumped in it just like everything else he's done in his life.
Was that something that you saw in him when he was a player? You just knew he had it in him to be a coach, or did he come to you and say, I want to do this? Was it kind of a combination?
So Coach Simons and I, told him throughout the time that he was here, at any point in time, you're ready to coach. We want to put you in a position where you can achieve that. You got to want to do it first and foremost. Last year, he started kind of dip his foot in the water a little bit. I think he had to learn the hours are a little bit different as a coach and player. You know what I mean? Player, you're going to spend a lot of time, but coach, you're going to spend all the time. And so all the time is a little different than a lot. So him understanding that, but you've seen him mature. And I think when Scott took the job to Dallas, to the Cowboys, I was able to sit down with him and say, hey, we want to bring you in a bigger role. This is what that looks like. I'm only telling you that because I think and trust that you can do it. If you couldn't, I wouldn't ask you to do it. It's not just because you're a really good player and I like you. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we're trying to take this to a different level. We're trying to go win games. We're trying to continue what the standard has been here. And I know that you will help uphold that. That's why I'm having this conversation. And so, I let him think on it for a couple of days, talked to Coach Lashley about it. Obviously, he's like, man, if we can do that, I would love for that to be the case because I think the same. He saw a lot of it in him. And when he was able to come back and say, Coach, I'm ready to do that, we were ready to put him in that situation.
Speedy Nettles has been with the program now for a few years. Where have you seen the most growth in his game from last season to now?
I think Coach Ward would tell you from what we've seen is that the game is slowing down and has slowed down for him. As a freshman, wasn't quite ready to play, as much as I'm sure he wanted to, going from being a two-way player, going from being, in taps from a private school standpoint doesn't mean it's not good ball, but it's a different level to jump all the way to ACC, right? And so he had to learn what that looked like. Last year, again, a lot of his flash plays started on special teams, right? Big hits, big plays, getting grading out highly on the special teams level, and then it transitioned to what he was able to do defensively. And so now when he goes out on the field going into year 3, the game is just kind of like Matrix, right? Slowed down for him. He's seeing everything. He's competing at a high level to the point where we can now challenge him and say, hey, let's put you in some different roles and responsibilities on the back end because you are versatile. You're a different body than we have that moves well. And so being able to kind of get that from him allows us to put us in a position for him to plug and play a lot of different places.
What have you seen from guys like Jayvon, Holiday, and Zay Gentry now that he's back in those two corners?
So Zay Gentry, injury-wise, there's nothing that can prepare you from being a guy that was the guy always, all the time, all life, to now being, off the field and watching. And so for him, his mental process is the first part of it. We got to get him back. We got his confidence, back. There's a couple of days of practice in these first 5 where he didn't practice well. And Coach Ward is not going to allow that. Coach Ward is going to make sure to challenge you, and he's not going to let you feel sorry for yourself, and he's responded the right way. And so now he's stacked 2 decent days on top of each other, right? Technique and just being able to feel it and be out there and do it because you were doing that in the summer last year and in fall camp, but you didn't get to do it in game situations, right? Until, I guess a little bit earlier in the season in some game situations. So taking that and just getting back into the routine of things, you've seen him kind of settle in, get back to being himself, especially like we said, mental aspect first. Jay Holly, it's time for him, and we want him to take the next step, right? I thought spring he kind of stayed stagnant. He had a freshman spring, and we talked to him about that in our exit meetings. Talked to him about that in the summer. We need you to be a guy that fills the gap in that room. You know what I mean? We can't have three guys that we feel probably at a really high level and then a drop off and then the next guys. We need you to start creeping. We need both of you guys to start creeping. And so you've seen that with Jayvon his first 4 days of practice and continue to trend that way. And so we're excited about it. But, they're young guys. We can't let off. Our thumbs got to stay on them, and they got to understand it's hard every day. It's going to be harder the next day. Work through it and fight through it.
What's fall camp been like for you? Is it slowed down compared to spring where you're learning a bunch of new things?
Yeah, for sure. I think fall camp has slowed down a lot, just especially in the defense. The game is moving a lot slower than it was in the spring, knowing the calls and getting more comfortable with my teammates in certain situations. We still installing a little bit more because we're getting a little more versatile in the back end. But, yeah, I think it's overall going good.
Where was your off-season focus? Where did you want to grow your game the most?
A lot in the film room and situational ball. I say the smarter player is always the best player to put on the field.
What made you immediately kind of fit in so well in this defense?
I'd say my play style for sure. The way I'm attacking this year and playing in defense is very aggressive. I also am very versatile in the defense. I could play corner, I could play dime, I could be slipped in at the nickel. So, it's just endless to what I can do.
What did you take away from being on a playoff team last year and the success that you guys had there and bringing it here with the expectations are high here?
I would say probably one of the biggest things was, as a team, in a team setting, just talking situational ball and knowing both sides, like from the offensive perspective and the defensive perspective. Because when it comes to when we run 2 minute like today, then we both know what each other is thinking. So when it comes to the game, it's just like it's easy.
Coach Crum talked about the defense's mantra this year just being hunt. What is that going to look like on the football field?
Very aggressive and very violent, for sure.
What have you thought of your camp so far?
Coming up on my third year, it's been very exciting for me, getting the field back in there. Fall camp has been going good, a couple of hot days, but overall I feel like we've progressively gotten better with the energy, with the effort thing. That's a very big thing for us. So I feel like as we progress, we're just going to continue to get closer and get better as a team.
You mentioned it being your third year here at SMU. Do you feel like it's your most comfortable and confident year heading into it at least?
Yes, I do. Feel like my confidence is at an all-time high right now, as it should be as well. DB's got to be out there, be confident, know what you're doing, but also being able to think. This usually is a time where I have one of those breakout seasons. It's been that way since high school, and I plan on to continue being that way here.
You would have overlapped with Jonathan McGill's player for 1 year, right?
Yes, I was here for his very last year.
So what's it like, having a former teammate be a coach for you, and what does he kind of bring to the secondary?
It's good. He brings that vet energy, always in the room, with always being able to take something from him, especially from me making that transition of playing between corner and nickel. So it's been good to be able to, pick his brain on things, ask him, how does everything work? Why does everything work that way in coverage? So it's been good having him around and using him as a resource for me.
Speaking of experienced guys coming back, Ahmad has been out there. What's it been like having him back and potentially having him for this season?
I'll say same thing as McGill. He brings that vet energy, brings experience to the room, makes the room look better overall. Just always good knowing that Ahmad is back there, just having that safeness about yourself and knowing that you have a vet back there who knows what he's doing,
Does he look like Ahmad, like right now? From last
Ahmad is Ahmad. He'll always be a playmaker.
For you this offseason, where did you want to grow your game the most?
I would say energy, attention to detail for sure. Just showing my athleticism on the field and being able to think and move at a faster pace than I did last year. So I would say that's a very big area where I was working a lot, training a lot on the field, and the minute details a lot.